and Anthony talked about if Hawkeye needs fixing or just an update in general. We summed up his character growth throughout the MCU, or lack thereof, as shown by the several seconds of silence that all of us had when trying to construct his character in the Avengers, unfortunately. We talked about Kevin Feige's comments about Hawkeye Infinity War, saying this is actually the best thing that's happened to him because people are now actually talking about him. And we overall came to the conclusion that Hawkeye is not well done in the movies. He's much better in the comics. The three of us have ideas. We're not in agreement. But Anthony best summed it up as he need to make him more grounded. But we're honestly are not sure how. But that's what the purpose he serves. That's the purpose he serves, and he does it well. And sort of us really seeing what will happen in the future with Endgame. And now Endgame has happened. And now, me, Aaron, and Layla and I will talk about it. This is AP Marvel. I'm Izzy. And here's Aaron.
Hi, my name's Aaron.
And, oh
yeah. I guess I was on this podcast a year ago, but I'm back.
Oh god,
so
it can't have been that long.
It was, yeah, I guess, last September or
was it the
October
Thor episode?
Was the last time I was on, so.
Weren't you on the
Yeah, I was
episode?
definitely on the Thor episode. I don't know if that was my last one.
Wow, well, in that case, welcome back. Yeah, and we also have Layla here today.
Hello, I'm Layla, and I'm here today.
Yeah. Nice. Layla, so Aaron and Layla both teach the Stuco with me at Carnegie Mellon, which got a shout out at commencement, which is crazy. It's crazy. And
yeah, that's good. It's too bad those people can't take class now. But, you know,
well, they're taking class with you two next year.
Yeah.
Which will be very exciting.
Yeah.
And when Layla took the class, she gave a PowerPoint presentation on Hawkeye in the MCU.
Yes, I feel very strongly about Hawkeye. He is my favorite superhero. Yeah, I'm willing to admit that. And I have lots of thoughts about him as a character.
So, just to start off, have, this is for Aaron and Layla mostly, because I know this is not true for me. Have you, really consumed any, what the phrasing Chris and I use is Hawkeye media, is the comics, if he hasn't unfortunately had anything else really outside of that, but really any of that. I don't
think any of the recent Thor ones have dealt with Hawkeye. So I would say no.
I kind of have. On a free comic book day, I went by to our local comic shop. And I bought an older Hawkeye comic that I read part of, but I never finished, so I bought that. I know he's had a recent run, doing an Old Man Logan kind of thing called Old Man Hawkeye. That's an alternate universe thing. This is real. But I haven't read it, because usually those types of gritty character, but gritty and old things don't really interest me. So...
I know, the Hawkeye Matt Fraction run is still on my list of stuff to read. Have any of you read it?
Yes. That's what I bought, was one of the later issues that I never finished.
Oh, okay.
It's so busy, it's so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really trying to. Aaron, I assume you haven't. Alright.
Nope.
So... Before we talk about Hawkeye, throughout Endgame and I guess throughout past Infinity War, I wanted to hear, I guess, sort of your thoughts on just Hawkeye in general before Endgame, before we delve into, just a warning, fairly spoilery territory if you haven't watched Endgame yet, although the spoiler ban is lifted. But yeah, I wanted to hear, Layla and Aaron, I wanted to hear your thoughts about Hawkeye in general before we get into the deep dive, just unpacking this character again.
Alright. I guess I'll go first, because... I I would say my opinion of Hawkeye is, like, he's been sort of not that, interesting in some of the previous Avengers movies. Like, I was just remaking our Avengers presentation, and Hawkeye has, like, one of the lowest screen time things. Like, is less than Nick Fury. I thought what they tried to do in Age of Ultron with his family thing, like, that was a good try. Good for them. But, it's, I still would say it's understandable he's not one of the more popular characters. It's sort of like what they had with Thor before Thor Ragnarok.
It's interesting you say that. Like, one of the things we talked about, and like in the recap episode, was that Thor had like a sort of a similar situation to Hawkeye, but then like they had like a major course correction, but they still framed it within the realm of like his past history, so it just worked so seamlessly with that. But yeah, we're arguing with that. Layla, what about you?
Well, I'm just gonna do like the summary of my PowerPoint presentation, which is my thoughts were always, he's interesting, but they gave everything that makes him interesting to other characters. So in the movies, he's always seemed like a bit like, why is he there? Because all the stuff that makes him interesting as a character is like, a lot of his qualities were passed off to like Tony Stark and to Captain America, and so he didn't really have anything that made him feel unique. So I also appreciated, even though it's not really like comic, like true to the comics, what they did with him with Age of Ultron did make him different. But then I felt like it was kind of like a token family in a way, and then they didn't really know how to develop that as a character trait of having a family and also like being in life-threatening situations all the time. So I was always just really frustrated. You can see like when I got my Twitter in like 2014 and like the first Age of Ultron trailer dropped, I have tweets complaining about how Hawkeye isn't in any of the trailers. I've like, it's always been really weird because Jeremy Renner is like a pretty good actor. He's like 2-time Oscar nominee. Like Hawkeye could be interesting, but feels like nobody involved with any of the movies ever really cared about him as a character. He felt like more of like an obligation they had to lug from movie to movie. So they never really developed him. So it's always just really, like, I'd still be excited when he showed up because I still think like the idea of him as a character is interesting, but never really felt very fulfilling in any movie. And then like he would just be absent from whole movies and like no one would care. And I guess that's fair because no one does care about Hawkeye, so nobody's trying to improve Hawkeye, and then it's a cycle.
Like, you're definitely right, like, because not a lot of people sort of like really care about Hawkeye. Like, he's always the one like people miss, that like no one really takes him in and like develops him even that much. Like, I think even with the Russos, like, as we'll talk about next in Endgame, like, I guess like they had their sort of chance, like they already have been developing Hawkeye like in Civil War, like, arguably, like if at all, and then they're really just building up on it in Endgame. It's not like it's a new spin on like this character they've inherited. But yeah, so yeah, just to talk about Endgame. I guess first some general observations, like how do you think Hawkeye was in Endgame in general before we go into more specific points?
I think, there was some improvement there. I liked the opening. I thought the opening did a good job, like, making you sympathize with him. I liked the whole thing with Black Widow. So yeah, I mean, it was fine. As someone who's not a huge Hawkeye fanatic, I thought, Did
you think it was an improvement, or just, like, staying the same?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I would say it was, like, somewhat of an improvement. Of course, they can do a lot more with this character, but the way he's currently done in the MCU, there's not much you can do. I would say it didn't really expand that much on his character, but with what they'd already developed, like, more was established, so.
Yeah, I agree. Like, and more of, like, enrich what they already had instead of adding new things. Even, like, Ronin was more of like an enrichment or development.
Yeah, of course Hawkeye's a rampaging
Hawkeye
maniac.
has feelings.
You didn't know that.
Damn it.
Yeah, Hawkeye is the Daenerys of spoilers. Game of Thrones spoilers.
Oh,
are we cleared for those? Yeah, I don't think we are.
So.
we might. It's okay. He'll do an intro, and he'll say there's
a single
Game of Thrones spoiler.
One
Sometimes
spoiler from like not even the most recent episode from last night. That's a week ago.
Oh yeah, the Game of Thrones finale was last night. I guess as we're recording this.
We're not doing that.
Oh, yeah, don't.
This
We're
is
not.
not
This
the
isn't a Game of
Thrones
Thrones episode.
This
It's
is
not,
the Marvel cast.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking on Hawkeye Endgame, I mean, he was in it substantially, which was really interesting, because he's never really been that in a movie before. Like, he opened it, which was so cool. It's almost like he's a main Avenger or something.
Yeah.
But I thought the Ronin stuff was interesting, because the Ronin stuff is really... That was his arc during, like, the Civil War era of the comics, if people are familiar with that, I believe. So it's like, it is a thing he did, but it's like, I always found like when Hawkeye is like really gritty to be less interesting, because I feel like that's just like a hat they put on a bunch of characters. And like, I mean, I can see like, oh, your whole family dies, so you become like a murderer, like, I guess. And it gave him like a quasi arc to go through then, as he like tries to not be a murderer. Which is something, but I did think it was an improvement, because they actually treated him as like a main Avenger for the first time, I felt like, ever. Like maybe in Ultron he was like a main Avenger a bit, but like it was really more situationally, and Ultron itself wasn't a very good movie to support him as an Avenger. So it was like better. And they tried, and it was sad when his family died. I felt sad.
Yeah, I feel like in the theater, like, because he does open the movie, and you absolutely know what's coming. And I remember just, like, bracing myself. I was watching it, I was sitting next to Thomas and his girlfriend, Allie. And Allie was, like, sobbing already, and it's like, oh my god, like, oh no, we're in for a ride.
We all saw the movie together. They were, like, gassed.
Yeah.
Like, the second his daughter disappeared, everyone just went, like, oh no. Like, they all, like, knew it was coming, and I think it was a well-done scene. Like, that just emptiness, but...
Yeah, like, it's a very good, like, we do talk about how, like, Hawkeye, like, sort of grounds the MCU, and I think that was a very interesting and, like, good way to sort of portray that again, like, just in case, like, if you just walked into Endgame and you didn't know what happened the first time, like, that's a good sort of summation, almost like a very good, like, scene that sort of, like, tell you, yeah, this is what happened last time, and this is what we're gonna do to, like, deal with it in the future. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, as, like, my gauge for like a regular audience viewer, I saw the movie with my parents like a night or two ago, and when they saw that Hawkeye scene, they were just like kind of confused. They were like, oh, what just happened? And then like they were like, oh right, we just watched that movie. Okay.
It's better than my mom, who just saw Endgame 2 nights ago and didn't see Infinity War, and she didn't know it was a 2-parter, and she was talking to me, and she was like, and I didn't really understand who that, like, Thermos guy was. And
the Thermos guy?
And I, like, explained, like, you know, like, half the world died, and she was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. So I assume... But, like, it was more grounded, because I think the whole concept of, like, half the people dying can seem a little, like, foreign. So, like, the idea, it's like, this guy's whole family died, which is very... If any of these listeners have seen The Leftovers, it's very Nora Dursty, but watch The Leftovers, it's great. But I think that did give him, like I think the greatest emotional stake, like him and Tony Stark in the movies, which was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, because like, they both have, like, well, because Tony Stark is a family now, in Endgame, so it's two, like, sort of, like, grounding pillars in that sense.
Yeah, Hawkeye had a really crappy, like, couple years, because, like, first, you know, his family dies, and then, you know, like...
Hawkeye's having, like, a really rough time in the MCU. Does anyone have it rougher? Probably.
Yeah.
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 That could be his characterization. Oh no, but that's like exactly
it's like
the
that,
dark
but he's
thing,
more
so-
like, oh, dang, Nabbit, not again. Like, that
Yeah.
should be his character in the TV show.
Yeah.
It's like Plate 18, Shot 18, except much, much darker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to talk about Ronan a little bit. Unfortunately, Chris cannot be here today, but they have said that they thought Ronan was underwhelming, and I know, I think you both like agreed, like he was like interesting enough, like he wasn't bad. But I wanted to guess, I want to hear more of like your comments on, like that, or just like your own commentary, just like more of like your deeper thoughts of like Ronan in general.
Yeah, I think we're doing you're going
First,
first usually.
I mean-
I think we've established the pattern.
Okay. I would say, Ronan, I guess we got to see a little bit of what he was doing. I didn't really buy. Okay, I've seen so many movies do the whole, oh, this guy is super dark now. Like, he's a tortured soul. He's gonna go kill all these people. Like, it didn't really have much of an emotional impact for me. Especially when, like, the Soul Stone scene, when he was talking about, like, oh, I'm such a bad guy now. I'm like, I didn't really know if I bought that, because, I mean, yeah, he killed a bunch of people, but, like, in general, he was, like, going after gangsters, and a lot of movies, that just make him the hero, so maybe it's that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was, like, it just felt a bit rushed. I mean, I know it's, like, 5 years that we don't see, but I think sad to murder is, like, a long path, and I don't like the whole thing in media a lot of this person becomes sad, so they start to murder. Especially, I know, like, Chris wrote, like, he only really kills or is mentioned killing people of color in this movie.
Yeah.
He's like Rhodey says, like, he killed, like, some, like, cartel members in Mexico, and then we see him, like, take out, like, I think, like, the Yakuza or something. And it's just, like, I know he's supposed to be portrayed as being bad, but it still feels like they just want him to be, like they want him to be bad, but still redeemable.
Yeah, have him go murder some orphans.
Yeah,
or
but
something.
they want him to
Then
be,
I'll
like,
believe he's a bad guy.
Like, redeemable, so they're like, it's okay that he kills, like, criminals. And I guess that was, like, whole Ronan's thing, but it just felt like, because they never even, like, call him Ronan in the movie, just in, like, promotional materials. So it was like they wanted to do Ronan without really committing to it, which I felt was, like, a bit underwhelming.
I just thought of, like, one thing they could have, this is really, I'm not a writer or anything, but, like, they could have him do, like, he could have gone to the orphanage or whatever, where Nat was raised, like, shut that
What
down.
would be the purpose?
Because, like, that's literally,
They
like,
did
that's
shut down
really
the
tortured about
orphanage
that.
thing she
like,
was raised in.
Yeah, but, maybe there was, like, other ones, and, you could just go in there and, like, wipe them out, but I don't know. Because that could have shown, like, he spared Nat, right? And we're saying, oh, he's a darker, more, like, desperate character now.
I sort of see it, like, just sort of, like, in, like, when Nat first, like, meets Clint, if they had, like, a vicious, like, fight or whatever.
Yeah, at Budapest or whatever, yeah. So... And he's saying, "Oh, I'm not the same guy I was. I'm a really dark, edgy character now."
Mohawk.
Like, so hypothetically, if the current Hawkeye went to Budapest, he would probably kill Nat, right?
Yeah.
But she's a bad person, and so it would make sense if they did more with that. They showed, like, oh, okay, you remember Hawkeye? One of his only character traits we gave him was, like, he's a very forgiving dude. Well, now he's not a forgiving dude, and if some assassin came after him, he'd probably
Now I'm,
kill
like,
them.
thinking about it, I feel like what could have been more interesting is, like, Hawkeye as, like, American sniper.
Ooh.
Like, he joins, like, the military, basically. So it's like he has, like, a permit, so it's not like he's, like, fully bad, but he's still, like, not really doing it. Like, he's putting, like, his, like, marksmanship for, like, higher, for, like, not as, like, following his own moral compass, but following, like, somebody else's, so he doesn't really have to think about himself and, like, what he's doing as much. That could have been a bit more interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could be like a mercenary, but he like doesn't
be...
really care about the money. He's just doing it so it like gives him a permission to kill. Because I feel like him going off on his own, like again, like doing the turn to like now I'm a murderer is like it's a bit strong, and especially since nobody really cares about Hawkeye. So I feel like nobody was like, oh, no, not my poor Hawkeye. They're like, oh, so he kills now. Okay,
yeah,
a lot can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't he kill before, but he killed bad guys before, and now he's killing bad guys, but on his own.
Like, I think I will agree with Chris, though, that, like, the movie only showed referencing him killing people with Scholar is not great, at all. I feel like just finding him, like, they found him in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think the fact of like him finding him in Japan, I feel like is the biggest reference to him being Ronin than anything, because Ronin is like a Japanese like concept and like term and whatever. But I think I definitely like agree that during that conversation with him and Nat, like in Vormir, when he's like, yeah, I've changed him as I killed so many people. I feel like I bought into that a little bit, because like, I mean, like, we follow this universe pretty heavily than others, so I felt like I could sort of see that, but it also did feel, like, really half-baked, and I feel like those references could have been built up more, or, like, if, like, Natasha has to try multiple times to get Clint to come back, then I think that would have helped, but I really think, like, Ronin was really there, just, like, almost like an Easter egg, almost kind of thing, because, like, you know, like, you just really know, like, he's done, like, this bad shit, but really, you don't have a lot of development to go off of. And that fight, like, if, like, Clint and Nat had, like, maybe had, like, more of a fight before, like, Clint eventually came back, I think it would have been a really interesting parallel for, Vormir later on.
Yeah, there's a lot more they could have done with it. I mean, what they did, okay, I think we all are basically saying what they did was serviceable, but it could have been more interesting.
Yeah. Better might be strong for me, because I feel like in a movie this big, like, there's not much you can do.
Yeah. It's gotta be kind of tight, and to a certain extent, I would imagine you have to rely on, like, things the audience is already familiar with. Like, you can't really break away too much from that, but,
Exactly.
Like,
it's a 3-hour movie, never mind.
If they were cutting the runtime with, like, more Hawkeye stuff, I feel like all the reviews would be like, the movie really felt its length. It's like, this Hawkeye stuff is like,
yeah.
It would feel a little weird if they tried to rush him being, like, a character too much in this movie. Like, if they're like, now it's the Hawkeye hour, it'd be like, what? The character no one cares about? Like, at a certain point, I feel like they just had to cut their losses and do what they could.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He was in the movie as much as, like, fans who don't like Hawkeye could stand. I mean, like, thinking back to it, you know, they have the Ronin thing, they have him at the beginning, they have the little scene with them flying to Vormir, they have him on Vormir, they have him being sad about Nat, you know, they do a lot of...
Yeah, I think it was really interesting to have him come back and be the one to try, like, that second run of, like, the time travel. I think that, like, when he goes back and, like, finds his, like, and, like, the time travel works, like, when he proves that it works, I think that was a really interesting scene.
Oh, yeah.
Also, you debuted that sweet mohawk.
He and Captain Marvel both got cool hairdos in this movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Were the tattoos new?
Which means
I don't remember. Yeah? Okay.
If you look at how many tattoos, that's like several months of work. So he really, after the apocalypse, basically, found an artist who still does commissions and was like, sleeve me up, and went back for months. Like, Oh my god, his brand. He just committed to his personal brand.
Edgy.
He's edgy.
I feel like now, the more I think about it, the more I feel like what they didn't develop with Ronan, they developed through, like, the latter half of the movie, like, with, like, almost a little bit after Nat died, like, he is the one, like, running through, like, abandoned ships with the nano gauntlet for some reason. Like, why? Like, I think even, like, those little details alone, or, like, just other narrative threads I thought, like, he could be inserted. I think that's how the Russos almost built him up and made him feel like more of, like, a core Avenger in some senses.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. They gave all of Black Widow's extra scenes to Hawkeye.
I mean, they've always felt like they could have been interchangeable. Like they're the non-powered ones that wear dark colors.
Yeah. Do you think though that it should have been Nat instead to jump off for the Soul Stone? I know, Layla, you mentioned like those scenes are pretty interchangeable. So do you think if it was Nat, it would have done anything different?
You mean if it was Clint instead of Nat?
Yeah. If it was Nat in those scenes, if it was Clint who jumped off, like, would it have been any different?
I think it would have been worse. Because it wouldn't, like, even if Black Widow's not that great a character, she's at least been in these movies more. So it would be a weird end to his arc. Because her arc was always just, like, she had a more solo arc of, like, personal retribution. And his arc, like, not really, by ending it without having it to do with anything with his family, like, he'd be sacrificing himself for his family. But Nat would be, like, it's always been her against the world. So, like, sacrificing herself for the world or the universe. I think that does work better. And especially since people know her more as a character. If it would have been Clint, people would have been like, they only killed Hawkeye, it's fine. And I think Nat was better.
Yeah, I agree with that, for sure. She's also been in more movies,
Iron Man
right?
2.
She's been in The Winter Soldier.
And she's had, like, arcs.
Yeah, Iron Man 2. I guess Hawkeye was technically
the same way he was,
Civil
like, technically
War,
in Thor.
Yeah.
Like, he showed up. But he wasn't, like, in it. He didn't have really an arc.
Oh, yeah.
He was just there.
Yeah, I think, like, I also agree with that. Like, I think Clint Clint had been the one to jump off, it would have been like, oh, of course they're killing Hawkeye. Like, it would been cheap. And, like, Nat has been, like, technically, I think Nat was the second Avengers introduced because Edward Norton was fired. So it makes a lot of sense that Nat was the one to jump off. But I think it would have still been cool if, like, they both fall off the cliff and then whoever, I guess, dies on impact first is the one to wake up, and that would have been interesting. But super scary, but...
yeah.
Yeah.
That would answer some edge cases about how the Soul Stone Vormir thing works.
Yeah.
But,
do you have, I guess, general thoughts about Hawkeye and Endgame before we move on to the next points?
Nah.
Last thoughts.
I don't like his Nazi haircut.
Oof.
It is. He has... You've seen neo-Nazis. They have that haircut.
I mean, everyone in, like, every small child in Texas has that haircut, too.
I don't know. It's
so,
like the fact that he
know.
was also murdering, I feel like, wasn't a good combo.
That's fair. Yeah, like, when you put that term with, like, what he was doing, I guess, not that great. Yeah. I will say, in reality, I feel like we should have seen Clint not die coming because it was announced a little bit before Endgame came out that Hawkeye, a Hawkeye Disney Plus series would be in the works. And more importantly, that it would have Kate Bishop.
Yes.
Which Layla's very excited.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. That's a point I wanted to touch on. I think another more, like, pragmatic reason you would kill Hawkeye over, or kill Black Widow over Hawkeye is just because, like, you can have a mentor someone. Like, with Black Widow, she has that story. She really doesn't want other people to turn out like her. But Hawkeye, you know, he's pretty happy overall with who he is and, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything. So you can have him do
like he's really built himself as like a mentor role, like with Scarlet Witch and like Quicksilver before he died, and like in some aspects, and so it like makes sense, I think. When y'all first heard this news, what were your thoughts about it?
I screamed. I will say, I posted this on my Tumblr in like 2013 that was like, I just want an MCU Hawkeye TV show where he's just hanging about solving small crimes with Kate Bishop. Because I feel like even more, like, since he has kids, I feel like their relationship will be less like father-daughter and more like in like the Matt Fraction comics, it's kind of like older brother, younger sister in a way. Where it's like he's like older and so he like knows a bit more, but they have like a nice like kind of like back and forth and they're like on the same page, but he's like, you shouldn't do that. And she was like, you're not my real dad, because her real dad's dead. I believe, she's an orphan. Her parents like died in like an avalanche, I think. It's been a while. I thought this would be good. I think a lot of Marvel is passing on the baton right now, and Hawkeye's like way too old and sorry, but irrelevant of a character to like continue on in the next generation. So passing it to like a younger person would be smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could do like a couple cameos to like introduce the movie audience to Kate Bishop or whatever. Oh, this isn't the right episode to do this, but I'm really interested in where they're going to go.
I think you can talk about it. I feel like you can talk about it. Yeah. This is the young witch.
Yeah, okay. So, basically I'm just worried that they're going to take the whole Disney Plus thing and they're going to make it work the same way as it worked with Netflix, where they didn't do anything with the characters on Netflix and they're pretty much irrelevant entirely to the movies. Like, you'll have to be careful, I guess, introducing the characters back and forth, but the whole point of the MCU is sort of like you see these characters interact, and if you say, hey, the TV's tie in, and then they don't ever influence the movies in any way, do they really tie in? So,
like, I think... Yeah. Erin, what I thought you were going on, but what I thought you were going on was, like, the Young Avengers sort of spin that Disney was trying to do.
Oh, I'm gonna... Yeah, that's also... Yeah, I think they're probably gonna go Young Avengers, but I would really prefer if they did a team-up movie over they did a team-up show, just because, but we'll see. Yeah. Well, have y'all already talked about the idea, like, each one of the shows is gonna set up a Young Avenger? Like, they have, Kate Bishop, and then the Loki show could set up Kid Loki.
Wanda.
And, the War Machine... Or
Wanda kids
that
are in the
Young
Avengers.
Wanda and Speed.
Wiccan, yeah.
Are they gonna find America Chavez in like the Falcon Bucky show?
They also can do Patriot, which is just
basically
like,
Falcon.
Yeah, it's like basically like a young Black Falcon, dressed in Captain America gear, which I cannot describe right now. And then like, if they introduce America Chavez in the Falcon Bucky series, I would cry. But that's aside.
Where are they gonna find Hulkling? He's just gonna walk. Can you just be like that like arms dealer in all the Netflix shows that just kind of shows up?
It'll literally be like Hulk in the Avengers. Like he just shows up. And he's just there, like how they did with Edward Norton and Mark Ruffalo. I think the mentor sort of role for Hawkeye, I think, will fit in well with integrating Kate Bishop, because I think that is just something like they have done fairly well with this Hawkeye in the MCU. It would be interesting to tie in like his family. I think that's also like an interesting aspect. I guess. Do you have a wish? So next is like Anthony can cut all that stuff out. So what else do you hope for the series? Like tone, like genre, like anything you want them to nail in general?
I've been thinking about tone a bit and like what they want. I have like a tweet where I just posted Matt Fraction panels that I want to see, because it if they're doing like Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, like Matt Fraction's comic series is like the best base for that because it really like established their relationship really well. And so I feel like it's very comedic, but it's also very dark. So I was like, not very dark, but it has like twinges of darkness because Hawkeye is like less rule abiding than other Avengers. Like he'll just like beat up mobsters because they're like fucking with his apartment building. But he'll also like call Tony Stark to fix his DVR. And so, I don't know, I was thinking as a comparison, like kind of like the TV show Barry on HBO, which has like a lot of like darkness, but it's also relatively very light and has like a lot of really funny moments. But then also like a little bit like younger and I think a little bit more comedic than that show or a different type of comedy. I think that'd be really interesting. And like kind of like a similar format to maybe like Jessica Jones that's like dealing with like smaller issues. I think that would be good. I just want them to I want the boomerang scene so bad where he just has a boomerang arrow that everyone thinks is so stupid and then he like uses it to like save the day and it's so funny. And he's just like the whole comic series, they're like, why do you have a boomerang arrow? Like, aren't you trying to shoot things away from you? And then he also has a dog. I want the dog in the show so bad. He has like a pet dog named Lucky that he like rescues from an abusive owner that he cares about more than anything in the world. And I need that. I need him like interacting with people like around. I need like Kate Bishop to be like establishing herself as like a different type of character. Because she's, like, snarky, but not in, like, a Tony Stark kind of way. And I feel like I don't want her to just be, like, a young, like, Joss Whedon quip person. Because I feel like that's not really who she is. I want so much from this show, so I'm probably going to be disappointed with anything. But I'm also just going to be happy it exists. I'm so excited.
Do you have any, like, showrunners or dream casts in mind for the show?
For Kate Bishop, I have two. Like, one of them, I just feel like she's a really talented actress, is Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she's a really good actress. She fits a lot of, like, the demographics of Kate Bishop. She's, like, in her 20s, but, like, a teenager, basically. But then the only thing is, like, I don't know if she has done, like, much comedy, and I feel like there needs to be, like, a bit of comedy in this show. So there's an actress called Geraldine Viswanathan. She was in Blockers and the TV show Miracle Workers. And I feel like she has like the perfect like comedic tone to like carry Kate Bishop. She's also a woman of color, which would be really interesting and nice for a show to star someone like that, which is great. But she has, like, a really good comedic sense, but then she can also do, like, more serious dramas. I believe she stars in this, like Sundance movie where she's, like, a dramatic lead, which would be good. For showrunners, I really don't know. I feel like they could do a young, new person. I feel like it doesn't have to be an established person. You could just go crazy, go stupid.
I would like to see like a female showrunner for the show. I think that'd be interesting. Like if they're going to, if they're going to focus, it depends. Like if they want to focus more on like Hawkeye or Kate Bishop, because I kind of imagine a scenario where like I think they'll retire Hawkeye by the first season and then have it follow Kate Bishop in some capacity. I would not be surprised if like that sort of thing happens. And so I think just a female showrunner or like a team like just to develop like Kate Bishop would be interesting. I think Schwartz and Savage, who showrun Runaways, would be interesting in terms of developing like that kind of character. Maybe like their sort of teen drama, Gossip Girl tone is too much, but I think character-wise, I think they'd be like a good fit. Yeah. For casting, I would need to look more. I think Anya Taylor-Joy is a really good option. But I would also like to see a woman of color. Yeah.
I know.
What about you, Erin?
A lot of people wanted her as an Asian woman.
How do you know all these like young actors? Like I know like 4, well, probably more than 4, but I know, like, the MCU actors, and that's, you know, pretty much the MCU actors and Tom Cruise. So, yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on who they cast. I'm sure they'll find someone. I imagine they're gonna use, like, pretty heavily all the Disney stuff, right? Because it's gonna be on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they're owned by Disney. I imagine they're gonna rely on that infrastructure.
Yeah.
Like, quite a
Oh,
bit.
did you have anything else?
I mean, yeah, I hope the tone is sort of comedic would be good, and then maybe more, like, detective-ish. Maybe that's, like, I don't know. They do whatever they fuck they want. I don't...
Yeah, like...
No strong opinions.
Yeah, like, you bring up a good point, Aaron. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, they pull up a Disney star, like, from the ground up, like someone on, like, Disney Channel or something, because I think that they sort of did that with Zendaya, I think, for Homecoming, even though, like, it's also, like, owned by Sony. But I also would not be surprised if they do something like that, just to cultivate, like, their talent. Yeah. Do you think Hawkeye, like, just Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye is enough to carry a show? I know I mentioned, like, I think they might, like, retire him after season 1, but I want to hear, like, yes, your overall thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think he should also be retired by the end of the season. Like, Kate Bishop has a run right now, I think. That's pretty good. And so I think she could carry a show, like, if she's set up by Jeremy Renner. Like, I think he'd be interesting to, like, have around for a bit, and then, like, the mentor dies or leaves or whatever, and then the new person takes up the mantle. I think he could carry a season for sure. And I don't really think he's ever done television before, which would be interesting.
Yeah. He has done, like, comedy, like, through Tag.
Did you watch Tag?
No. It just looks bonkers.
I almost saw Tag, and then I didn't, so...
I mean, speaking about, like, wanting the show to be different, like, a major thing could be, like, the reason, like, the show kind of starts is, like, we could have the arc where he loses his hearing, and that kind of, like, affects him as a character, so he's maybe, like, not at the level we know him as, which would, like, kind of add to the fact that he's training somebody else. Like, that'd be interesting.
He'll have to lose his insanely expensive CGI arrows from the movies, probably, but we'll see.
Can he actually shoot? Because I know a lot of the people who play archers in, like, movies and TV actually learn how to shoot.
Yeah, he can. I think he talked about he spent a lot of time training for Hawkeye, and that's why he was sad in the Avengers that he wasn't relevant. But, I mean... I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. We'll find out.
Because I don't know if you guys have seen the guy from Arrow, but he's like...
Stephen Amell?
Yeah, he's an amazing shot. Like, he's, like, really good at archery.
Yeah, but he's pretty much also, like, carrying the entirety of the CWDC verse.
Well, he's leaving now, so...
Yeah, but, like, before he was. Like, I wouldn't be, like, surprised, I guess, like, about that. But, like, also, I think just archery is just cool in general. So I think, like, even if, like, Jeremy Renner might want to, like, also personally learn how to shoot a bow and arrow and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool life skill.
Yeah.
It's a great party trick if you just bring your compound bow to your friend's, like, Game of Thrones watching party. You get bored.
Yeah. So, Leila, you mentioned potentially making Hawkeye deaf, like, perhaps like in like the Hawkeye TV series. And that sort of brings back some comments of Jeremy Renner just not being very aware in the past. Like Jeremy Renner, essentially like Jeremy Renner's made some like sort of off-color jokes. Like there was one time at a convention, someone told him like, yeah, in the comics Hawkeye's deaf, and Jeremy Renner sort of tried to be like, oh, what do you say? Like, and then just sort of trying to mime that, like, and joke around, like, yeah, like, Hawkeye's deaf, like, sort of pretending that. And that didn't go over well. And there was also, like, sort of the story of, like, how, during the Age of Ultron press tour, someone asked Jeremy Renner, yeah, like, Natasha's, like, you know, like, also involved with Bruce, but did she kiss Cap and whatnot? And there's, like, I don't know what's going on between like Natasha and like Hawkeye, and Renner jokingly called Natasha a slut, which also didn't go over well. So I guess, especially considering like sort of like the deaf comments, do you think like I guess like for one, have we forgiven Jeremy Renner for those kinds of comments? And Jeremy Renner has said up front that he I don't think would incorporate like Hawkeye being deaf, but would he be open to that / like, and I guess an open response? And mostly I want to hear like y'all's thoughts about it, like sort of.
Yeah. I guess I hadn't heard about the Hawkeye, the comments he made about Hawkeye being deaf before, so I looked up the YouTube video before I came in. I mean, yeah, he seems, not totally aware of what's going on. He kind of played that initial joke way too long, in my opinion, but I just think the primary issue was, like, he wasn't being super aware of what he was saying.
Yeah.
And I don't really think he was necessarily, like, trying to hurt anyone's feelings. He was just being sort of, not super thoughtful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I remember that whole slut comment thing back when I was, like, younger and, like, on Tumblr, and a lot of people were like, oh, it's horrible. And yeah, it wasn't a smart thing to do. It was a very stupid joke. But I feel like a lot of it got overblown. Especially, like, it really became a part of, like, the whole wave of, like, your fave is problematic. Where it's, like, just, like, finding, like, the worst things celebrities have said. Because, like, especially, like, at those junket things, like, they're sitting there for 8 hours. They're, like, usually bound to say something stupid. But I think, so that wasn't really smart. In terms of the deaf thing, yeah, it's, like, it was just kind of, like, a weird joke that he probably thought was really funny in his head. And then it didn't really work. So I don't think that, like, disqualifies him as much as, like, he's not a very good actor / person. I think he's just a bit stupid. But, like, he's, like, just, like, a straightforward actor person. So if they decided to make Hawkeye deaf, I feel like he'd be down with it. Like, I saw interviews where he was like, that's not the direction I played him, but if they're like, and now he is an explosion, he loses his hearing, he's not going to be like, no, I don't want him. Yeah. Because well, he's a talented actor, he's been in good stuff, like, I'm sure, like, nobody loves Jeremy Renner. Like, if your favorite actor is Jeremy Renner, like, are you sure about that? The only great thing about Jeremy Renner is his app. He has an app. It's called, like, Jeremy Renner Updates. You need to install it. It's the funniest thing. What? It, like, sends you notifications, like, view your daily Jeremy Renner pictures. And it's like, his team licensed this. This wasn't, like, a fan app. And it's so funny. And that's the greatest thing he'll ever do as an actor. I'm sorry. But, yeah. He just needs to be a little less stupid, but don't we all?
Yeah. I think that's sort of common in, like, a lot of just people say stupid shit, and then it gets really problematic, but, like, yeah. Like, hopefully people will be more thoughtful with what they say, but I'm sure if someone recorded me all day, every day, I'd say some really stupid shit too, so. As we know in class, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes stupid shit.
I'm gonna miss being the straight man so much in class. But yeah, like, I think if he said these things in, like, 2018, 2019, like, would not go over well at all. But I think, like, those were, like, around, like, 2013, 2015, which is a very different time, in the post-Weinstein era. And so, I think like there were definitely things that were taken like those like sort of remarks are taken a lot more seriously now, and so you can sort of excuse time. You can sort of use time as an excuse, and in general, I think they're still not great, but I think he's learned overall. So, yeah. So just to sum things up, overall, like, what do you think of Hawkeye in general throughout the entire MCU? Now factoring it in Endgame, do you think he had like a long-term character arc or whatever, or what is his future like?
I think if someone like Taika Waititi came on to Hawkeye and like tried to make his character better, they could, salvage him. But it seems like they're going in the direction of just sort of retiring him, which is good too. And I think, he'll be remembered, like, he was a guy. He'll be somewhere middle of the pack as far as MCU characters go. So, yeah, that's Hawkeye.
Yeah, I feel like they've squandered a lot of Hawkeye. I feel like the TV show could be like the thing where it's like, oh, this is what could have been. But I don't think, like, even me love Hawkeye. I'm not like crying over missed opportunities in the MCU for Hawkeye. Like, he never really was anything, so it's not like he like fell from grace. I feel like in 10 years people will forget he's in these movies. People rewatch like the Avengers and they're like, oh, I forgot Hawkeye's in it. Like, especially like most of like the big cut scenes from the Avengers, if you watch deleted scenes, were scenes with Hawkeye in them. So they really Jared Leto Jokered him. And one of them's like really interesting. It's with him and Loki. You should check it out. Anyway, yeah, he's just poor Hawkeye, man. Never could catch a break.
Yeah. Oh, Hawkeye, no.
Oh, Hawkeye.
Yeah. I definitely think, like, unfortunately, like, I don't think he was, like, I think he was, developed more each movie, but he never had, like, a character arc across movies or even, like, within movies. Like, I don't think he has an arc within Endgame either. I think that, I don't know.
He was the MCU static character,
Yeah, like, it's interesting, like, at the end credits of Endgame, when they have, like, all the sort of marquee, like, actors credits with Jeremy Renner, like, Chris Hemsworth, like, Robert Downey Jr., like, those, like, big marquee credits, like, it felt a little, like, it feels simultaneously in place and out of place to also have Jeremy Renner in those, because, like, if you think about it, he's only really been in the Avengers movies, but he's just credited as, like, one of the founding 6 Avengers, but he's never had his own movie, or, like, has really not been in much compared to, like, a Robert Downey Jr., for instance, or, like, even, like, a Scarlett Johansson, and so it feels half, like, yes, this is earned because you're in these movies, but also, like, it's also, like, sort of it's a weird place, I guess, for him to be in, and I think that sums it up well.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts before closing?
Hawkeye deserves better, y'all are just cowards. That's my
Yeah, I think I'm gonna read that Hawkeye comic thing for I got Marvel Unlimited, so I'm gonna see how that is. But yeah. Not really because the movies did anything, just because the show's coming out.
Yeah, it's pretty good. If you like dogs and the Mafia.
Dogs, yeah, there we go.
Have a great time.
I don't really like the Mafia.
Well, it's not like
interesting.
If you like fighting against raising the rent on New York City housing.
Oh yeah, I love Daredevil.
It really is. That's the plot line, though. Oh, God.
That's so good. It's so good. All right. So, Layla, Aaron, do you have any social media handles you want to plug?
No. Maybe one day. Come back next year and we'll see.
Aaron's an internet ghost.
Yeah.
I'm at Galaxy Layla. Layla spelled with the E and the I, not the A and the Y.
Nice.
On Twitter. And that's it.
Nice. I'm at Delirlin on Twitter. You can subscribe to AP Marvel on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and also on YouTube. Leave a review. It helps us out. It shows us like what we can do better, and also shows us what you love about it. So yeah, put those reviews in. Join our Patreon. All that stuff. Join our media. Read our Medium at medium.com/apmarvel. Join our Discord. Super fun time. We have a lot of 1-year anniversary plans coming up. This is episode 51, which means next week is episode 52, which means that it's been a year of us doing this thing, which is incredibly crazy. A video coming up pretty soon that is super exciting, developing on the One Marvelous Scene, famous around YouTube essay channels. And a few essays. I have one tentatively lined up about Shazam, which is going to be super exciting, which is not Marvel in any capacity, but an interesting take on Shazam and representation that I think would be interesting, really, and a couple other essays lined up, so stay tuned for those. Thank you to Charles Villanueva for the graphics, Steve Molitor for the music, and thank you to all our top patrons. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you